My name is Mark Miriello. I'm from North Carolina, and I graduated from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. In kind of discovering optometry as a profession for me, it wasn't really something I thought about at first. I knew, I was good at science and math, and I've always been good with people, so I kind of knew I wanted to do something that incorporated all of that. But I didn't really know what, and one day, I guess it was late high school, my mom actually just kind of brought it up out of the blue. It was like, hey, what about this? And it just suddenly kind of struck a chord with me. I was like, oh, I never really thought about that. But then, I started looking into it, and I had a great mentor back home, Dr. Charles Sykes, who was phenomenal. I shadowed him, and just the more and more I learned, just the more I loved it. It's not like, other, maybe medically geared professions where people, dread going. So that's just a nice plus. And, and even when I started into school here, I realized now that I really didn't know as much about optometry as I thought I did, but the more and more that I've learned, even being here about, everything that optometry has its hands in, the more I realize I certainly made the right decision. Well, in looking into what school I wanted to do go to for optometry, I really didn't want to be a number, I guess, because UNC Greensboro wasn't a very large school by some other school standards, but I had some 100 to 200 person lectures and things like that, and I just I like interacting with people, and I wasn't really getting that there, and so I kind of wanted something where I felt like part of a family, and I thought I would get more out of that from a private school, for example, than another school where the med school kids and the dental school kids and everyone was taking the same anatomy class versus things like that. So that was certainly up there on my list. And then in looking at SEO particularly, at first it almost didn't seem like it would be what I wanted because it was a larger class size compared to some other ones that were maybe 30 students, and SEO was 120 to 130. But the more I actually went through the admissions process, and in talking to the faculty here at SEO, I realized they were remembering who I was and things about me and being very courteous, and I really felt more like I wasn't going to be, like I said before, just a number in those dealings. And sure enough, since I've gotten here, people say when I've given tours before, they're amazed at walking around, and I just see people all over the place that I know, and whether it's faculty, staff, other students of varying years, and say hey to them, and odds are I probably have like an inside joke with that person or something. So, and they've commented to me before, it just seems like everybody, and it's like a family, and it really is. So that was certainly something about SEO that caught my attention, even more so than the schools with smaller class sizes. What I think the Eye Center here at SEO is going to, I guess, give towards me in my optometric education is variety, really, because it's a larger clinic that sees such a high patient volume and all kinds of patients. Being a school, we accept all kinds of insurances, so there are people of all socioeconomic backgrounds coming in. It's just that that variety. So I could see just someone who wants computer classes one day, or I could see someone with this crazy rare corneal dystrophy that's like 1 in a million the next day, versus dealing with someone in the vision therapy department. So you just are going to get a hands-on with everything. And I remember one of our faculty members was kind of giving us a pep talk, and he said that it's a great feeling to be able to go over there every day and know that he's not going to see anything that's going to scare him, and that's amazingly powerful. And I really think that through my tenure at the Eye Center here, just getting to see that patient volume and the different kinds of cases, that's going to be a very strong step in getting there, where there's nothing I could see that will scare me. I feel like the first 2 years here certainly prepare us very well. It's impossible to prepare 100% because people are people. But I feel like they prepared us very well for starting to see patients. For one, just because we are a private school that focuses just on optometry, you know, we're getting the optometric perspective from day one. You know, our faculty are almost all have been practicing optometrists that have worked in private practice, referral centers, things of that nature. So they bring that perspective from day one, even in the really general classes like anatomy and physiology, even before we get into ocular anatomy and ocular physiology. We're just constantly seeing how things tie in, both in a theoretical optometric standpoint and in a clinical and practical optometric standpoint. That combined with how early we start getting into the laboratories and learning the skills, you know, I could more or less do on a fairly straightforward patient, could do a complete refraction after my first semester here, which, you know, that's an amazing thing to go home at Christmas break and be like, hey, mom and dad, guess what I can do? But I definitely feel like the first 2 years, being that we started so early and have gotten to actually practice those procedures, you know, for 2 years before we actually really get to be with patients, has prepared us very well for starting to see patients. As far as you know, time management when it comes to studying and being able to balance, you know, a real, I guess, you know, a social life, not having your nose buried in the books 24/7, I feel like I've developed a lot better study skills here than I know I had in undergrad. You know, I like to say if I had the study skills I have now, if I had had those in undergrad, I probably could have graduated with a 4.0. But unfortunately that wasn't the case, and I don't have a 4.0 here either. But I do feel like my study skills have improved a lot. One thing that I personally do in particular that is very helpful when it gets to, you know, finals time and cumulative test time is I kind of do, when I study for the midterms, I do kind of cheat sheets, if you will, just sheets of paper that I write down, you know, the things that either weren't so big and stand out in class that I did, things that I don't think I would remember anyway, or maybe very specific information like numbers, formulas, things like that. You know, I don't write down the things that either seemed unimportant or things that I knew I would remember anyway. So that consolidates the information a lot, and certainly when it comes to finals and, you know, cumulative classes test time, that lowers my study time significantly. But other than that, as far as having a social life, it's great because I feel like the school realizes that that's healthy and important to being a functioning human being. So, you know, the school organizes activities like we have our big chili cook-off, we have our eyeball, which is, because we're super clever, eyeball, which is our big formal dance, and just all kinds of activities like that. And then, you know, we have our clubs like Omega Delta that organizes, you know, like themed parties on the weekends and things like that. And, you know, if you are, you know, managing your time well, it's not that hard to have time to still do things like that, especially since going back to the whole being a private school thing, the entire curriculum is, you know, everyone's taking the same classes. It's not like an undergrad where you could take 3 classes in 3 different departments and wind up having exams for all 3 of those classes on the same day. You know, we're all taking the same classes, so the exam schedule, it's going to be spaced better, I guess, to where, you know, we're not going to have 3 exams on the same day. That just won't happen because our teachers know, oh, they're going to have an exam on this day. Okay, I guess I'll push the exam I was going to give that day or that week back a little bit. So that, just that in and of itself, I feel is another perk of particularly being in private school, and it's done a great job of allowing us to time manage more easily and to still have a social life and go out and have fun. My experience at SCO so far, I've loved it. I mean, I was kind of talking earlier about how it feels like a family, and it really does. You know, I have friends in the classes above me, below me. You know, feel like I know pretty well everyone in my class. You know, we even it's kind of a joke and it's kind of not that we know everybody's eyes already. You know, so it's not like we sit there and try to memorize everything about it, but you're like, oh, this person's very nearsighted versus this person has a lot of astigmatism, or we're gonna know because we practice together so much. So that's made it a great experience. With that, between the faculty and staff all being very personable, everyone wants to see you succeed. A staff member once told me, getting in is supposed to be the hard part. Once you get here, we want you to succeed, and that really shines through with the faculty, particularly. They're all in clinic as well, so they don't always have office hours all the time, but they're like, email me, we'll set up a time, we can talk about your test or whatever, what have you, or even just life and the things that go with that, because we're more than students, we're people that have lives. So it's just been great. Everyone's very flexible and very accommodating and wants to see you succeed. And I get a lot of questions about how competitive is it, between individual students. Like, is it cutthroat, or is it, very helpful, a helpful kind of team environment? And it's certainly more of a team environment, because we have people all the time that are making study guides or consolidating information to make it more understandable, more accessible, and posting it on, our big websites that everyone has access to, like SharePoint or Moodle and things like that. So everyone's trying to help out each other. If someone needs to practice a particular skill with someone, they might post on our Facebook group and be like, hey, will someone come and I need practice doing gonioscopy if someone wants to, stay after school for like half an hour and let me practice on them. And, there's always multiple people volunteering for that kind of thing. So it's a very helpful environment, and I've loved it so far.